I spend a majority of my time on my phone. Most people in this age do. Not just phones, but screens and technology in general. The second after we wake up to the moments before we sleep. But it's not all bad. It serves as a great source of entertainment, if not a break from everyday life. We look at screens at every waking moment. However, in turn, it will affect us negatively given a long period of time. So, why not sit down and take a break? Find an escape somewhere. How about grabbing a drink, or finding something to eat, talking with friends or family, or even going for a walk? It's up to you, really. For me, it's my hobby of art that I find an escape to, the act of creating something from a blank piece of paper, and patting myself on the back for my hard work. Inevitably, I return back to my phone, diving into the vast sea of the internet, until I find something eye-catching. A breathtaking art piece was created by a robot, specifically, artificial intelligence. Hello everyone, I'm Denzel, but you all probably know that already. For my 20 time project, I'll be delving into the AI art controversy, what it is, how it works, the legal application it has, and more. Now, without further ado, I'll get straight into it. I'm sure everyone in this room has heard of artificial intelligence, AI for short. From movies, TV shows, to books. A software that replicates consciousness without the aid of human hands. Something that we could use to make our lives much easier. Or, at least, that's what we hoped for. We've all seen or at least heard of the post-apocalyptical scenario where AI and robots rise up, overthrowing the society of humanity. Depicted in films such as The Matrix, where humanity is ruled over by AI. Or wiped out completely. Well, almost completely, like in the Terminator franchise. More often than not, these ideas are often brushed aside. However, the steps of such a scenario may have already begun, just not in the way the media and books have always depicted it. If you haven't heard of it yet, a while ago now, a game-changing software has been developed. News stations, radio stations, and even more have all been talking about AI-generated works. AI-generated works such as music, voice replication, word generation, and art. And, as expected, this created a web of controversy surrounding it. Some were all for it, whilst others were against it, and some just really didn't care that much. At first, I was in the majority of those supporting the creation of AI-generated works, believing that it was a way to aid people and give them an easier time for more creative opportunities. So, out of curiosity, I decided to research it, and here's what I found. Not many would expect this, but this kind of software is much older than it seems. One of the first significant AI systems is named Aaron, developed by Harold Cohen beginning in the late 1960s. Quite surprising since many including me had only heard about this technology around 2 years ago. But after researching some more, it strangely fit the time period. Allow me to explain. You see, the 1960s were all about transforming science fiction into fact. Automated robots, satellites, and a trip to the moon helped make what was once only fantasy become reality. Featured inventions include the lunar lander, weather satellites, video game consoles, industrial robots, and we can add the beta version of AI generation there somewhere. As time progressed, this software also grew, dominoing into the status it has now. I will now begin to explain how this AI software works, so pay attention as best you can, as I also talk about the lawsuit that Stability AI is also facing, and what it means for the whole idea of AI art. For AI software to work, there needs to be an input to produce an output. This is where the problem lies. Stability AI, one of the companies behind Stable Diffusion, have funded the creation of the largest dataset being used, called the Lion 5B dataset. This dataset also includes copyright and private data, running up to around 6 billion images scraped across the internet, which of course were claimed without the consent of the owners as well as the website operators. This dataset is so large that it takes almost 240 terabytes of open disk space on a computer. Simply put, it's massive. It is because of this dataset that allows for Stable Diffusion for its reputation of how good it's generating at AI images. The plaintiff, who are the people accusing Stability, stated that this is a clear violation of the copyright owners. And they're right. Stable Diffusion doesn't deny the massive amounts of training images are copyrighted, which is, on basic terms, is copyright infringement on a mind-bogglingly massive scale. There are counter-arguments made that since it's an open source and it's free to download, that it should be alright. However, whether or not something is committing copyright infringement has absolutely no bearing on whether or not it is open source, so take that argument and throw it in the garbage. Class action lawsuit that was filed wasn't mainly focused on whether or not they committed copyright infringement, because they did. No, copies of the trained images aren't actually in the distributed model. In layman's terms, the final products are not the same as any of the images that were used to train the model. The real trick of Stable Diffusion, and what the plaintiffs widely argue, is that it creates latent images based on the 5.5 billion copies that the model was trained on through a process called machine learning, where it is given a training image that is associated with a specific word, and gradually more and more noise is added over that training image, until it's completely obscured by the noise. Then, a second process of machine learning takes place, reversing the process. Only this time, the noise is gradually reduced and the program attempts to reconstruct an image that it got trained on. But it never quite nailed this to an exact copy. The plaintiff suggests, however, that the latent images are copies of the training images all the same. Using their statement of reconstructed copies, they can infer that they are, all intents and purposes, copies. The strongest argument, however, is that any image generated in Stable Diffusion is a derivative work on the training image that the model was built on. A derivative work is a work based on or derived from one or more already existing works. Examples of these are translations, movie adaptations, art reproductions, and new editions of books. The suit claims that once the program is trained, it data meshes all of its billions of latent images and manipulates them to fit the given condition. For example, a user of Stable Diffusion can input the text promo, a dog wearing a hat eating an ice cream cone. The text prompt of a dog wearing a hat eating an ice cream cone are conditional data that inform the model what latent images to call upon. Then the program will combine the latent images together to something perceptible to the human eye. The argument is that this process is entirely reliant on the latent images, which are solely and exclusively derived from training images, which are copyrighted. So regardless of the fact that the resulting image of a dog wearing a hat eating an ice cream cone looks nothing like any of the original training images, there's a very good argument that the plaintiffs make that every image the model generates is a derivative work. This matters because the right to produce and distribute derivative work is known as the adaptation right, and it is one of the exclusive rights of copyright, meaning that a derivative work cannot be created without the authorization of the copyright owner. However, a work that is transformative rather than derivative if it alters an original work with a new expression, meaning, or message. Or it adds value to the original work by creating new information, new aesthetics, new understanding, or new insights. Examples of this are movie reviews, analysis videos, and so on. Transformative work takes the original copyrighted work and changes it to such a degree that the use no longer qualifies as infringing, since it serves an entirely new purpose. The difference between transformative and derivative work is something that cannot be overstated. Derivative work needs permission from the copyright holder, while transformative work ones do not. This is the real issue that the case is referring to. That whether or not Stability's use of the 5.5 billion training images that make up the Lion 5B dataset constitutes as fair use. But alright, what's the big deal? This thing just takes a bunch of images and uses them to create more. So what? If you think this technology will stop here, well, think again. If the courts were to allow Stability and others like it the rights, this would effectively allow AI generators the absolute freedom to create models trained on works of any kind, no matter how large, without the authorization or consent of any of the copyright owners. Because, like it or not, this technology will affect all audio and visual entertainment as we know it forever onto our future. AI grows at a terrifying rate. Take ChatGPT for example. This AI has completely rewritten what AI is capable of. Even the media has picked up on its power to create a complete essay in record time, which is insane. Now, before anyone thinks of this, no, I did not use ChatGPT to write the script. All of this was typed out by yours truly. Now, to answer the question posed back in the beginning, is AI art the end of human art? And my answer to that is no. Personally, I want to believe that this technology should and can be used for good. In an unforeseen turn of events, instead of even more arguments arising, this technology is used to support and empower people in the creative industries, rather than posing as a threat. Making, creating, inventing are not only these people's livelihood, it also represents them, their story, personality, and ambitions. To be honest, I'm thankful that this lawsuit is happening. I'm also thankful how Stability is pushing the boundaries of what you can do with artistic tools. At the end of the day, I believe this is merely a stepping stone for a much bigger event in the future. This might just be what we need to set things in motion, to set a precedent. But anyways, what a truly fascinating time to be alive. And thank you all so very much for listening, because I sure am tired of hearing my own voice.